My wife Diane is a thin, blue-eyed, freckled, fair-skinned, natural blonde. She had cheated on me once before we were married. When we were dating in college, I had forgiven her. But ever since the beginning of this year, I began picking up on familiar red flags, shifts in her demeanor that were painfully similar to how she acted during that old betrayal. Our physical closeness had also taken a hit, and it wasn't long before I began seriously questioning her loyalty. The simplest way to find out was to quietly monitor her location. So, I activated the Find My Phone app on her device without her knowledge. A couple of days later, while at work, I checked her location. She was at home. That struck me as unusual. Her job as a real estate agent kept her constantly on the move, and she rarely had reasons to be home in the middle of a Wednesday. I made up an excuse to take a long lunch break and drove straight home. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed her car parked outside. I tried to rationalize. Maybe she was picking something up. But the moment I walked through the door, I could feel something was off. From upstairs, I heard more than one voice. My stomach sank. I crept to the edge of the bedroom door and carefully extended my phone just around the corner, recording the scene inside. On my screen, I saw the unthinkable. Diane was with not one, but both of our married neighbors, John and Kevin. Both had wives and children. A large rubber sheet covered our bed, something I'd never seen before. Clearly, this wasn't spontaneous. It was deliberate. I had never imagined Diane being into anything like that. I remembered how once, when I tried taking the lead in the bedroom, she pulled away for over a month, saying, "I'm not that kind of girl." Yet here she was, doing exactly what she once claimed to hate. I figured I had enough evidence and backed away. I went downstairs, grabbed a drink, and started thinking things through. Her betrayal was clear, and I didn't want her anymore. Speaking into the silence, I said, "I need to make a plan. I need to teach her a lesson." A firm idea came to mind, and I muttered, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do." I opened the fridge, removed all but one wine bottle, and stashed the rest in a cabinet. I took 2 of her sleeping pills from her purse, crushed them, and slipped the powder into the remaining wine bottle in the fridge. I then grabbed my laptop, sat at the dining table, and listened as they continued their fun upstairs. While I had the time, I removed Diane from my healthcare proxy and life insurance, split our joint finances, and downloaded the legal documents to start filing for divorce myself. Later, I heard the shower running upstairs. It went on for quite a while. Our staircase led directly down to the front door, which faced the dining room where I sat. When the 3 of them finally came down, I looked up at them and calmly said, "You guys are so caught. I sent your video to your wives. Have fun with your divorces." They froze on the stairs, shocked. John recovered first, shouting, "What did you do?" He was a couple inches taller than me, heavier too, but mostly fat. "You wrecked your marriage like you helped ruin mine," I told him. "And now you want to fight about it?" Before he could take a step, I stood and pulled 2 carving knives I'd hidden under a napkin. I approached with one in each hand, eyes locked on John. I asked Kevin without glancing at him, "You want in on this too?" He shook his head immediately. "No way. I'm out," and ran straight for the door. "Looks like it's just you and me now, John," I said coldly. "Never liked you. I've always seen through you. You hate me because I know what kind of person you really are." His face twisted with rage. "I'm going to take that knife and hurt you." I stepped even closer and pointed a knife toward his face. "Go ahead. Try it. When you reach for this one, I'll bury the other one deep in your gut. Or maybe I'll drive it right into your eye first." John stared at me with hatred in his eyes. "Come on, tough guy. I'm looking forward to feeling my knife sinking into you." I gave him a cold, mocking grin. "Come on, big man. I'd love nothing more than to cause you some real pain right now." Then I twisted the knife deeper with words. "You know, maybe I'll swing by your wife's place after this. She's always preferred me anyway. And now I'm sure she'll appreciate a man with actual character." I could see the jealousy boil in his eyes. He always suspected there was something unspoken between me and his wife. Nothing ever happened, but the mutual respect and laughter clearly bothered him. And the jab about my personality? That one hit home, because it was true. John's face flushed a deeper red. "What's wrong?" I taunted. "Aren't you always running your mouth about how you're not afraid of anything? That you never walk away from a fight? Well, here's your moment." I stepped forward abruptly, flicking the knife just inches from his face. He recoiled so hard he almost stumbled. If he hadn't moved, he'd have lost his left eye. His expression changed instantly. The bravado drained from his face, replaced by sheer panic. And then, the unmistakable wet stain running down his leg. Watching him degrade himself like that, I felt nothing but disgust. "John," I said with deliberate condescension, "you're making a mess on my floor. Get out of my house. And forget you logically." With a shout of frustration and humiliation, he turned and bolted out the door. I watched him retreat down the street, muttering under my breath, "Pity. I really hate John." I really wanted to watch him suffer on the floor. Diane stood nearby, white as a sheet, trembling at what had just unfolded. I calmly shut the door, then turned to her with a cheerful tone. "Come on, dear. Let's have a chat. Be careful. Don't step in tough guy's mess." I took my seat again at the dining room table and slid the knives back beneath a napkin. Then I gestured for Diane to sit. She did so quickly, her hands still shaking from what she'd just witnessed. In a soft, almost pleading voice, she said, "I'm so sorry." Still flipping through the documents in front of me, I replied evenly, "Yes, you are. You're a very sorry excuse for a human being." Before she could utter some pathetic excuse, I slid a few forms across the table toward her. "These are divorce papers. I downloaded them online and filled them out already. Since we live in a no-fault state, it's a straight 50-50 split. You'll get the house. I'm keeping my 401k. I didn't wait for her to respond. I've already moved my half of our checking and savings into my own account. I paid off all joint credit cards and canceled them. I want you out of my life, and I'm trying to be fair so we can wrap this up fast. But just so we're clear, there's no alimony." Diane's submissive tone vanished instantly. "No way. I know my rights. You earn way more. I want spousal support, and I want the house too." I stayed calm. "Do you want the video your parents, siblings, and friends will see? Maybe your future boyfriends too? I'm sure they'll love seeing what kind of woman they're dating." I held up my phone and showed her a still from the recording, her with the neighbors. Her face twisted. "That's blackmail." I shrugged. "Well, maybe Kevin's and John's wives just decided to share the video I sent them. Can't say I blame them. You blew up their families." I pointed again at the divorce papers. "Sign them. This is the best offer you'll get. The longer you delay, the greater the chance that footage ends up public." She looked over the documents, hesitated, then grudgingly signed at the marks I had made. "Good," I said. "I'll file these today. I'm moving out, so I'll be in and out the next few days. I've already informed my boss I'm taking the rest of the week off. Please just stay out of my way while I pack." "You're not taking everything," she snapped. "I'm watching you." "Fine. That's your choice," I replied without emotion. With that, I walked out of the house to file the papers at the courthouse. When I returned later with a small rental van, Diane was sitting on the couch holding a glass of wine. Her outfit was suggestive, completely inappropriate for the situation. "I have my phone recording video, so you may want to change your clothes." She smiled at me and made a provocative gesture. "Don't you still love me?" I did not answer, even though I so wanted. I wanted to make a smart remark about her appearance, but the silent treatment was really making her angry, so I stayed quiet. "You'll miss me." I gave her a glance filled with pure contempt, like I had just caught a whiff of something rotten. Without responding, I turned away and made my way upstairs to the bedroom to pack my things. She trailed behind me and sprawled out on the bed as I began folding my clothes into a suitcase. For the next 20 minutes, she cycled through excuses, apologies, and pathetic attempts to win me back with flirty remarks. "I miss you. Come back," she purred, trying to reawaken something in me. But I didn't say a word. I didn't even give her the satisfaction of eye contact. At one point, when my back was turned, she slid off the bed and wrapped herself around me, pressing her body against mine. "Come on, baby. I'll treat you better," she whispered, trying to be seductive. But there was nothing left to feel. The betrayal, the disgust. It had burned away any trace of warmth I might have had left for her. Realizing I was completely unmoved, she let go and stomped to the door. Then she turned and shouted, "Maybe if you were a better husband, I wouldn't have to be with other men." I didn't break stride. I didn't even look up from my suitcase. That was the thing with us. Over the years, I had always responded to her advances, whether she was sweet or manipulative. This time, my silence was louder than anything I could have said, and it enraged her. She stormed down the stairs, still yelling. If you had cared more, I wouldn't have strayed. If you made me feel wanted, none of this would have happened, she shouted up toward the bedroom. Her final blow echoed from the bottom of the stairs. You're never going to reconcile with me until you apologize for treating me so badly. I just shook my head. What a disaster. Later, as I loaded boxes into the rental van, she lounged on the couch in nothing but her robe, sipping wine and watching TV like none of it mattered. She acted like I wasn't even there. About an hour passed. When I walked by the living room with another box, I noticed Diane had passed out on the couch. I went into the kitchen and checked the wine bottle. It was nearly empty. I nudged her. No reaction. I leaned close and called her name. Still nothing. Satisfied, I grinned. I love it when a plan comes together, I whispered to myself. I gently slid her wedding ring off her hand and tucked it into my pocket. Then I put her phone on airplane mode and placed it deep in a kitchen drawer. I closed all the blinds and taped a black blanket over the glass front door. I even covered the garage windows and disabled the doorbell, just in case. That night, I kept busy packing up everything that mattered to me. I prioritized her expensive jewelry, top-of-the-line kitchen tools, and pricey appliances, things I knew she cared about deeply. I figured if anything went wrong, I'd at least have those loaded first. I knew the sleeping pills she took lasted 8 hours, sometimes longer, and they always left her groggy for at least an hour afterward. Once she was fully under, I crushed another pill and gently sprinkled it into her open mouth. Then I tipped a bit of wine in. She coughed, swallowed, and remained out cold. I kept the cycle going every 6 hours. By 8 a.m., I was up and making myself breakfast. I stepped out into the backyard and rearranged the setup. I padlocked the side gate. Then I gave Diane another dose, carried her out, and settled her into a reclining lawn chair. I strung up some beach towels between trees to create privacy, just in case a neighbor happened to glance over. From the outside, it would look like someone was just sunbathing by the pool. In truth, it was to block any view of my unconscious wife while I continued loading up the van. All day I worked, taking boxes either to storage or to my extended stay motel. Every 6 hours, she got another pill. Every hour, I shifted her chair to keep her in the sun, adjusting the angle to avoid tan lines. Wouldn't want it to look suspicious. Around noon, a loud banging rattled the front door. I peeked out from our front window. It was Kevin's and John's wife. I heard them yelling, "Come on out here, you homewrecker. I'm going to hurt you. You can't hide. Forever, you terrible person." They were screaming outside the house, furious, loud, and desperate. I had parked the rental van inside the garage so it would stay hidden from the street. I noticed them trying to open the side gate, but thankfully they didn't try climbing over it. The heavy black blanket I'd placed behind the glass door gave the impression that no one was home. From the outside, the entire house looked completely dark and unoccupied. After about 5 minutes of banging and shouting, both women gave up and left. By nightfall, Diane's skin had turned a deep, painful red. She was practically glowing from the sunburn. Once the sun went down, I brought her back inside and laid her out on the couch. I turned on the ceiling fan to keep her body cool and reset my phone alarm to keep her sedated every 6 hours. Friday morning, around 9 a.m., I carried Diane back outside to her lounge chair. To my surprise, sometime around 1 p.m., the intense pain from her sunburn actually woke her up. I watched silently as she staggered into the house through the back door, clearly dazed. "Diane, what happened to you? You're badly sunburned. Here, lay down and drink this," I said, guiding her to the couch and handing her a glass of water I had already laced with another sleeping pill. Once she passed out again, I carried her limp body back outside and placed her in the same position on the chair. I went back in and dumped out the remaining laced wine. I thoroughly cleaned both the wine bottle and the water glass she'd used, erasing any trace of tampering. That evening, after sunset, I carried her in again and laid her on the couch. Her body radiated heat. She was already blistering. 2 straight days of unrelenting sun had done their work. The sky had been clear, the weather hot, perfect for my plan. I stopped administering the sedatives and began returning the house to its normal state. I took down all the blackout blankets, opened the blinds, removed the padlock from the side gate, and took down the towels that had been strung up across the backyard. At 8 p.m., I poked her in the stomach, right in the sunburned area. No response. I waited another hour and tried again. Diane woke up screaming, "Don't touch me, Diane. I need to take you to the hospital. You fell asleep in the sun and got badly sunburned where my eye hurt." She was barely conscious, eyes glassy, voice weak. "You're badly burned, Diane," I said, trying to sound concerned. "Your face is swollen. We need to get you to the ER." She struggled to move and eventually slipped on her robe. I had to carry her to the car. Her feet were too damaged to walk on. The soles were burned raw. Once we got to the emergency room, I explained everything to the intake nurse and the doctor who came out. "I recently moved out," I said. "Came back to get a few things and found her passed out inside. I think she got drunk and fell asleep in the sun all day. Do you think she'll be okay?" I asked as the doctor nodded gravely. "She's suffering from second-degree burns over her entire front side. Possibly some third-degree burns in spots," he said. "We're treating her for sun poisoning, reducing the swelling and bringing her fever down. But we won't know the full scope of the damage until later." After he left, I quietly peeked into her room. Her entire front was wrapped in sterile burn gauze. Even her lower half was bandaged. I had made sure her legs stayed spread apart and directly exposed to the sun the entire time. A young nurse walked up and asked politely, "Are you her husband?" "Ex-husband," I replied casually. "Can you provide her insurance details?" "Nope," I said flatly. "I already removed her from my policy. She might not have any coverage. You'll have to ask her when she wakes up." Without another word, I turned and left the hospital. The next day, 2 police officers showed up at our house while I was packing. One officer asked questions while the other officer looked around our downstairs and backyard. He spent most of his time looking in the kitchen and laundry room. "Can we ask you some questions about your wife's sunburn, which put her in the hospital?" "You mean my soon-to-be ex-wife, Diane? We're divorcing. I see. Can you tell me when you last saw your wife not sunburned that would be?" "Thursday, I came by a few times to get my stuff." "She was sitting on the couch. Could you tell if she had been tanning on Thursday?" "Yes, she had a nice red tint all over her body," I replied. "What time was that?" "Around 8 p.m. "How are you able to determine the extent of her tan?" "She was undressed. I caught her on Wednesday being unfaithful with my 2 neighbors, and she was trying to persuade me not to divorce her," I replied. "Got it. When did you see her after that?" the officer asked. "I went by Friday morning to pick up some more of my belongings," I said. "Was she tanning at that time?" "Yes." "When she saw me inside the house, she came in, completely undressed, clearly drunk, and wallowing in self-pity. She begged me again to reconsider, and when I said no, she got angry. I finished collecting my stuff and left. As I was pulling away, she was already lying back out in the sun with another bottle of wine. "Does your wife typically drink that much?" "She usually sips 1 or 2 glasses when she sunbathes. But that day, when I returned later, there were 3 empty bottles on the counter. She normally doesn't drink that much unless she's with her friends or severely depressed." And believe me, she was very depressed once she realized I wasn't going to stay married to a cheater. "Can you provide the names of the friends she normally sunbathes with?" "Sure. I can give you the names of her 2 closest friends she usually tanned with, though they probably wouldn't consider themselves her friends anymore." "Why is that?" "Because those 2 men I caught her with, John and Kevin, were their husbands." "I see. Your wife is claiming you drugged her and left her outside intentionally. She's blaming me for being careless when I've told her countless times, never mix sleeping pills with alcohol. She never listens." "So, she takes sleeping pills?" "Yes. They're prescribed, but she abuses them. If she's stressed, sad, or just wants to crash early, she pops them like candy. Add alcohol, and she's out cold for hours. She knows that." "I see. Well, thanks for speaking with us." As they turned to leave, I put on my most convincingly puzzled expression, genuinely curious what they were thinking. When it comes to the police, I've found honesty, or the appearance of it, is your best weapon. Once they were gone, I swapped out the small rental van for a larger one. I needed the extra space for furniture and big garage items. On Monday, I listed the house for sale. I had a feeling it would soon become useful leverage. 2 days later, Diane called. "Honey, can you bring me some clothes?" "Nope, not gonna happen," I said flatly. Why don't you call John or Kevin for that? Please, I really need your help. Can't you show just a little forgiveness? Oh, you already got that, I said coldly. I dragged your scorched self to the hospital, didn't I? Don't ever contact me again. And I hung up. By the time she was released from the hospital, I had cleaned out the entire house. All that remained were her oldest, ragged clothes, some makeup, our shared bed, and the infamous rubber sheet. I found it stuffed into the bottom of a laundry basket, sealed in a Ziploc bag. I left it on the bare mattress, with no pillows, no blankets, and no sheets. And no, she never got the chance to wash it. I'm sure the stench was unbearable by the time she walked through the door, especially since I had shut off the central air conditioning before leaving. That house must have felt like a sauna by then. Fitting. Everything I wanted to keep was secured in a storage unit. What I didn't care about, or knew she'd try to claim, I either sold at a secondhand store or simply trashed. I burned our wedding album, deleted every digital photo, and even incinerated her wedding dress. Once the lawyers were involved, all communication between us went through them. Diane still tried. She sent hundreds of texts and emails. Some were tearful apologies. Many were angry threats, especially after she returned home and realized the place had been stripped. She tried to contest the divorce form she had already signed, claiming she was coerced. But she was desperate, broke, burned, and alone. She developed photosensitivity so severe that she had to avoid sunlight completely. Even the warmth of sun-soaked clothes caused her pain. Of course, this meant she had to quit her job as a real estate agent. Who would want to be shown houses by someone wrapped in bandages and avoiding daylight? She accused me of manipulating her into signing the divorce papers, claimed I stole everything, and demanded alimony. Luckily, the house sold before we were divorced. When I threatened to hold up the sale of the house and not sign over the proceeds to her, she agreed to no longer contest the divorce. I knew she was desperate for money. A month after the divorce, after dark, there was pounding on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole, and just as I suspected, it was Diane. It was the first time I had seen her since dropping her off at the hospital. Her appearance screamed of alcohol, disheveled, unstable. I had expected this moment eventually. I opened the door slightly, and without waiting for an invitation, she shoved her way inside. "What do you want, Diane?" "I want a drink," she slurred. "There's a bottle in the fridge." She went straight for it, grabbed the open bottle of wine, and chugged directly from it before pouring herself a full glass, finishing the bottle in the process. Glass in hand, she made herself comfortable on my couch. Using my driest sarcasm, I said, "Why don't you just move in while you're at it?" "I will." She snapped back with a smirk, matching my sarcasm. She peeled off her light jacket and flopped back down onto the couch like she owned it. She wore an absurdly small crop top, barely more than a bikini. Her entire posture radiated arrogance, an old familiar look I hadn't missed. I sat across from her, scrutinizing her closely. The years of sun damage had not been kind. Her face, once youthful and expressive, was now a patchwork of deep wrinkles and blotchy tones. White, red, even gray in places. Her face was bare, no makeup, likely forbidden by doctors to avoid infection. But the worst of it was her nose, once delicate, now misshapen, swollen, and covered in rough scarring. She should have kept that jacket on. Her arms and shoulders were covered in dark spots, and her skin looked even worse than her face. Diane had always weaponized her looks, cute outfits, flirtatious charm, everything calibrated to turn heads and get her way. But this time it wasn't working. I didn't bother hiding my reaction. My expression said everything, and she saw it. The confidence melted off her like wax. Her smug grin faded, her posture slumped. For the first time, Diane looked genuinely self-conscious. She had always relied on attention from men to feed her ego. That sudden shift, from admired to ignored, must have hit her harder than the burns. She had become invisible to the very world she once manipulated with a glance. "What do you want, Diane?" She gave me a warm, overly rehearsed smile. "I want another chance. I still love you." I shook my head. Love is built on trust, and I don't trust you. Instead of strengthening our relationship, you hid your desires and gave your energy to others. That wasn't about love. That was betrayal. I was still the same wife I always was. It didn't mean anything, she argued. If you had used that part of yourself to bring us closer instead of sabotaging us, maybe we wouldn't be here. I could see I had caught her off guard. She had come ready with a script, and I had just tossed in the trash before she could get through the first act. Let's drop the act. What do you really want? Her fake smile vanished. I want you to pay my medical bills. You had no right to remove me from your health plan. We weren't even officially divorced yet. Actually, that's exactly what happens during a separation. We live apart. We split finances. That's standard procedure. She looked up at me, eyes sagging, her voice filled with venom. You did this to me. You owe me. You're threatening me now. I'll go to the police. They already came months ago. Question me. And nothing came of it, because there's no case. Your story sounds insane, and everyone knows it. The court didn't buy it. Neither will the cops. I know you set me up, she hissed. What? By letting you drink yourself into a stupor and fall asleep outside. Didn't realize that was illegal. How could you? You love me. No. Loved. Past tense. Silence fell over the room. She looked at me with what I assume was supposed to be vulnerability. I need help, she said in a broken voice. I'm drowning in medical bills. I have no money left. I need skin treatments, maybe even grafts. I don't know what to do. Then came the final push. Her voice softened. Her eyes glistened. I still love you. I know you loved me once. We could love each other again. I think the sunburn had screwed up her tear ducts. I could tell. She was trying to cry for sympathy. Why don't you ask Kevin or John for help? They got to be close to you too. She looked at me with a twisted mix of guilt, frustration, and bitterness in her expression. They're both broke, divorced, and they want nothing to do with me. She paused for a moment, then added, a few weeks after we split, John showed up at my hotel room. I think he wanted to reclaim some of his lost pride. She scoffed. He failed, miserably. The second he saw me, I could see it in his eyes. He remembered how badly he humiliated himself that day. You scared him, and he knew it. She leaned forward, voice dropping into something almost nostalgic. He stormed out and called me a dried-up wreck. He never truly liked you, but it destroyed him that he cowered to you like that. And worse, his wife had already seen the video you sent. She was waiting for him at home with screenshots. Diane went on, smiling bitterly as she relived the chaos. I actually started seeing John's wife after that. She kept asking why John looked so broken. I told her the truth. After that, she always made sure to mention me to John. Casually at first, then not so casually. With her permission, Diane said with a wicked grin, I sent John a photo every week. Nothing explicit, nothing obvious, but just enough that John knew it was her and me. He hated it. She added, it ended a few weeks ago, but I still have plenty of those pictures. As for Kevin, she shrugged, I didn't have to try. His life was already ruined. Diane once admitted, during one of her drunken, guilt-ridden rants, that John had pursued her, but she was the one who went after Kevin. Said she thought he was attractive and easy to manipulate. He was younger. At a barbecue once, I saw how thrilled he looked when she responded to his harmless flirting. After they slept together, Kevin wanted out. Said it was a mistake. But John and Diane pressured him to keep going, using photos John had secretly taken. Kevin found out the hard way how vulnerable cheaters can be. She looked almost proud for a second. You really messed John up, she said with a strange gleam in her eyes, like she admired it. That day it was thrilling. I thought maybe it meant you still loved me. I met her excited gaze with an emotionless stare. Her flicker of hope faded fast. She turned her eyes downward. Kevin's wife calls him names in front of everyone, even their kids. She made sure your video reached his entire family and mine. I ran into Kevin at the grocery store, she continued. I asked if we could talk. He took one look at me, broke down in tears, and collapsed on the floor. Security had to escort me out when the cops showed up. There was a haunted look in Diane's eyes as she recounted all of it. John's failure, Kevin's public breakdown, and how she had obliterated their lives along with ours. She took a long drink of wine, her hand trembling. Why don't you offer them the same deal as before? I asked sarcastically. It worked last time. I can't, she said quietly. Why not? Catch something? No. The burns. I raised an eyebrow. You don't get it, she whispered. Everything down there, it hurts. Constantly. I have to keep gauze on those areas at all times. Even air hurts. I'm damaged. Funny, I muttered. I thought you liked that kind of pain. She winced. That's not the problem, she said. It's not about what I like. I can't feel anything anymore. She choked on her words, her voice breaking. I lost all sensation. After the burns, the skin peeled off, and now I'm numb. Completely. The doctors say it might come back someday, but there's no guarantee. She began sobbing, burying her face in her hands. I can't enjoy anything anymore, she cried. I'm broken. I let her cry. She wanted me to feel sorry for her, wanted me to reach out, to hold her, to forgive her. Instead, I simply picked up her wine glass and handed it to her. She drank deeply, pausing only to sniffle, then gave me a faint, grateful smile. Unbelievable, she thought she could just win me back with a few tears, a provocative outfit, and a smile after she tore my heart out and treated me like garbage. She still expected me to be there for her, to provide her financial and emotional support. But that chapter of my life had ended. And now, I had no intention of being her safety net. I had already dismantled the comfortable little world she used to manipulate me. Now it was time to erase the last trace of false hope she was still clinging to. As Diane noticed the faint grin on my face, her tears vanished, replaced by a sudden, fragile optimism. She stood up and stepped toward me with that familiar softness, the kind she used to get whatever she wanted. I gently took her by the arm and led her toward the front door. At the threshold, she turned around, wrapped her arms around me, and pressed herself against my chest. Her eyes locked with mine, full of longing and fake tenderness. Don't you still love me? She asked softly. Looking deeply into her eyes, I slowly shut the door and said why everything about you that I loved is gone. Standing defeated on my doorstep, I slowly closed the door in her face. And so we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day. So click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.